Thank you and welcome to the show for today. You are watching Perspectives and I am host Alana McLaughlin. If you can tell, I'm stifling laughter right now because I have comedian Kyler Finney here to discuss his artistry, here to discuss the impact that he seeks to have on Tennessee communities. He's here to discuss flop sweat comedy and the ways that we can support him. He's had me laughing all morning, and I encourage our viewers to tune in to laugh as well. Kyler, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's very fun.
And I want to open up this first segment by talking about the baby Kyler years. I want to set up kind of where you're from and what that early childhood looked like.
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in Laverne, Tennessee, which is like right outside of Antioch, so like South Nashville, but this is Rutherford County. That's where I spent a lot of my life. Went to school, Laverne, middle, elementary, and high school. It was really cool, man. I loved the neighborhood I grew up in. I grew up in a pretty big neighborhood, and you know, it was nice to be in that area because it was a very diverse area. So I got a lot of cool experiences as a kid.
And what did kind of family look like for you?
You know, my mom and dad were together. They've been together my whole life. My dad was in the military, so he traveled a lot and did a lot of things like that. My mom worked at the National Rescue Mission most of my life. And it was, I mean, it was great. I had 2 sisters and a brother. Growing up, I was the baby. I'm the youngest. You know, just a kind of dysfunctional family, which can breed a lot of humor. But you know, we're very close, and I love my family.
And take me through childhood. I want to hear kind of some of the things that you were interested in, some of the hobbies that you had as that early child. Just set up what like that kid looked like for me.
Man, the biggest thing about me as a kid is I spent a lot of time talking to people. So like I lived to ride my bike. I would ride my bike all around my neighborhood, and if someone was outside, I was talking to them, learning everything about them. You know, just trying to figure out. I was really big into learning people as a kid, so I spent so much time outside talking to random people, probably situations I shouldn't have been in at my age, but it really helped mold me to like understand people.
And did comedy kind of play an early role in your life in this childhood?
Yeah, I like to watch comedy with my older brother. We would stay at my grandma's house, and we would just like watch Comedy Central. That was kind of the early of it, and I watched a lot of a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is like an old improv show with like Wayne Brady, and I would watch that all night on ABC Family, and that's kind of the earlier influences of comedy for me.
But in that childhood, did you imagine that you'd be a comedian? What were you kind of dreaming?
Well, I didn't think that was an option. You know, I never was explained like the actual options I had. It was kind of just like, you know, I watched my dad, he was in the military, I watched my mom work. I never knew that it could be an option to go on stage and tell jokes in front of people. I never knew that was a possibility. And
take me through adolescence. Tell me kind of some of the shaping experience that you had in that early youth. And we're going to transition into you actually developing that kind of personality within your comedy.
I was always the center of attention. I try to be. You know, like just different things. Like at one of my grandmother's weddings, I sang Elvis. I was like 7 or 8, and I just sang Elvis in front of everybody. Just little things that would always, if there was a room full of people, I was doing something that they would watch. That was kind of what was like, this is kind of fun. I like to make people laugh.
But still, tell me, where is your head at? Take me through high school. Are you thinking college? Are you thinking that military route, that working route?
I never thought college. I was smart at school, but I couldn't sit still enough, and I wasn't really big into test taking and stuff. Like, I always had good grades, but I got in a lot of trouble because I couldn't sit still. So I didn't think college was an option, and immediately I knew I was going to work, but I never knew what I wanted to do.
Really?
So when I was 16, I mean, from 16 to 19, I had like 18 different jobs, 16 different jobs. I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't keep a job. I remember my dad telling me that if I could keep a job for longer than a year, he'd give me $100.
It was that bad?
No, I just couldn't keep a job. I never liked listening to people. It wasn't fun.
And I don't mean to jump the gun, but I want you to tell me just that early beginning. Give me about a paragraph's worth of that early intro into comedy, specifically like that public performance aspect.
Yeah, so I mean, I always liked to be the center of attention and have fun, like I said. My sister, when we were younger, got introduced into modeling.
Okay.
So that kind of was like, oh, wait, you can do that. And, you know, all these kid modeling agencies are like, oh, we'll get you on Disney Channel and stuff. She never went to Disney Channel. She did do a Bart Durham commercial, but that's pretty, that ain't Disney Channel, though. I feel like Disney Channel checks are a lot different. But I kind of saw that. I was like, oh, wow. So this is a route. But I never was allowed to really do it.
And Kyler, in our second segment, we're going to pick back up on that inspiration from your sister, and we're going to continue into just your early beginnings. We're going to talk about all the things that you have ongoing, and I encourage our viewers to tune into the second segment of Perspectives, where we will return to discuss Kyler Finney, flop sweat comedy, and ultimately the impact that he seeks to leave on Tennessee communities. Welcome to the second segment of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I am host Alana McLaughlin. You are watching Perspectives. This morning on the show, I have Kyler Finney here to discuss his comedy. He's here discussing flop sweat comedy, all the things that he has ongoing here in Nashville, and ultimately ways that our community can support him. In our first segment, Kyler set up his early background and kind of early childhood, what his family life looked like, and ultimately we left off talking about his inspiration into public performance, specifically within the comedy realm. And we're picking right back up on that. You were telling me about your sister and her early beginnings, and I just pick right back up from there.
Yeah, so she was doing modeling stuff, and I thought it was really cool, and I never got to do it. Like, not the modeling, but like the acting as a kid. I was in a music video when I was really young, and that was kind of cool, but never really thought it was an option.
Whose music video?
Oh, it's an old Trace Atkins music video.
What?
Yeah.
What song?
All I Ask For Anymore, I think it's, yeah.
I'm about to go find you. Okay, no, continue. I didn't want to know that.
Yeah, I mean, it was on a whim. It was a military, like, kid-themed video. So a lot of kids at the local, whatever this place was, a bunch of military kids were there. It was pretty funny. So that was kind of my first ever thing on a camera. But my first show for comedy was 2022 or 2023.
Okay.
It was about a year and a half ago, is the first time I ever touched a microphone or a stage. But in that short amount of time, I've done some really cool stuff and got to be a part of some really cool things. Like I get to host a lot at the local club Zanies, which is really, really fun. They're great people over there. And I got to be a part of a show recently called Judged by Matt Walsh, and I played the bailiff on that. So those were my first like real performances, or like my first time doing those kinds of things.
And we're going to examine just like how those things felt, the reception from them. But I want to talk about 2020 for you. I specifically want to talk about the demolition company that you own. I want to talk about that work and how you got into that line of work.
So I was selling cars, and one of my friends that I sold cars with, he quit and went to work for a company. I went and worked for that same company. That was my first time ever using tools as a job.
Okay.
I previously worked in like retail stores or sold cars, door-to-door sales. So I've never picked up tools. So I did that for the first time in 2019. This is a year outside of high school.
Okay.
And within a short amount of time, I was like, well, I'm seeing what they're getting paid.
Okay.
I'm seeing what I'm getting paid. And I was like, well, I could do this. So me and my friend decided to just do it. We had nothing but a couple of tools that we had stole, and a Hyundai Elantra, and now we have a fleet of trucks and employees. It's amazing what can happen in a short amount of time with a lot of hard work.
And tell me some of the services you offer, actually getting this fleet. I want to hear about like the meat of it.
Yeah, I mean, so it was, God works in crazy ways. When you're on the right path, things just start falling into place. It don't make any sense, but I don't ask questions. I just keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Things just happened, fell in place. I mean, it started out, we were doing a lot of stuff for real estate investors in the area, flipping houses. We go in and do those demos, smaller demo jobs, and then it got to a point within 6 months where I told my other friend, I was like, hey, quit your job and come do this with us because we need help. That happened, and then we started growing more. They were able to do the jobs, and I was able to go out and sell and get more jobs, and we were able to really expand our services and the types of people that we worked for. So now it's me, my best friend as my partner, our other friend is our lead guy, and then we've got a plethora of other guys that work with us. And we just go in and do demo. We tear places out and tear them down. And
so now you're doing this demo work. And I want to talk about that first call to Zanies.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how you even got involved in this comedy space.
Yeah.
And just tell me what life looked like.
So I had a lot of free time at night. And for a couple months, I was like, well, I need to just, I don't need to just be sitting at the house. Like, my work's done. You can only tear houses out during the day.
Yeah.
So I I started washing dishes.
Okay.
And I was like, well, this isn't really worth my time. You know, I need to do something else that makes me feel more fulfilled. So then I went to my first open mic.
Okay.
Through that, I was introduced to the Nashville open mic scene, which is a very welcoming scene. I started doing really well, and I spent a lot of, just as dedicated as I am to demo, I'm dedicated to comedy. So I spent a lot of time writing jokes and just trying to get my set really good. And I was able to do an introductory spot at Zany's New Material Mondays, which is a weekly showcase that they do with so many different comedians. You got local guys, and you've got really big headliners that come in. So I did my first 5 minutes there, and it went really well. And since then, they just continues to give me opportunities, and I continue to deliver.
And tell me what a New Material Monday with like a 5-minute set kind of looks like. Tell me the setup, kind of the material you were thinking. I want you to like take me to that night. Yeah,
I mean, it was really cool because it was, I forget specifically what charity it was, but it was a charity night, so it was filled up. And I mean, it was like 300 something people. It was a lot of people in there, and I'd never done that many people. But I just, I just went up there and did it. With the 5 minutes that I did had been what I've been working on for, 6 to 7 months. The entire leading up to that, I'd been working on that 5 minutes, so I had it. So I just went up there, and you have to be present. You can't just read off of a script in your mind, because then it seems like it's not genuine. So you have to be present, and I was present, and I did my jokes, and I had a lot of fun, and it was, the crowd was very nice.
And I want to talk about now going from that good experience. Tell me, walking away from there, did something kind of spark within you?
Yeah, I just wanted more. I was like, oh, this is like, because at open mics, on a good open mic, you're in front of 25, 30 people. Zany's has an open mic now that they do, and sometimes it's packed out. But even then, it's not like it's not the same as a crowd who pay tickets to go and see a show. They're there to laugh. At an open mic, sometimes you're at a bar and some guy doesn't even know it's an open mic. So you're really fighting. So that felt like not a fight. It felt very easy, and I was like, I want to do this more. I want to do more time. That was the biggest thing, is I wanted to do more time, right? 5 minutes goes by quick. So I really wanted to go up there and do 10 or 15 minutes. And that's what I started working on. And since then, I've been able to do that.
Now, and to wrap this second segment, tell me about your first kind of full-length set.
So my first full-length set at Zany's was when I was hosting for a comic named Josh Blue. And I went up there and did 10 minutes. And that was just so much fun. And
I want you to take me through kind of like the road to that. Kind of tell me how you were able to fill out the crowd, some of the material. Kind of throw it at me.
Well, the biggest thing is just, the crowd, you never really know who's in front of you, right? Like if you're a big headliner, you know your crowd. But if you're, a host or a feature, you don't really know what you're getting into unless you can kind of look it up. So it was more just like I went in there and, I'm just confident in what I talk about. That's another big part, is like if you're confident in your jokes, people will still be like, okay. You're like, we'll give you, we're gonna give you that. We'll give you that. We'll give you that.
And in our final segment, we're gonna talk about establishing that confidence. We're gonna talk about ways that we can support you, where we can view you, ways that we can support. And I encourage our viewers to tune into the final segment of Perspectives, where Kyler and I will return to discuss comedy culture in Nashville, flop sweat comedy, and ultimately the impact that he seeks to leave on local Tennessee communities. Welcome to the final segment of the show for today. For viewers just tuning in, I am host Alana McLaughlin, and you are watching Perspectives. This morning on the show, I have Kyler Finney here discussing comedy culture in Nashville. He's discussing his artistry, his comedy experiences, flop sweat comedy, and ultimately ways that Nashville communities can support him. In our first two segments, we set up Kyler's early career. We talked about just some of the things that he's been into in town, some of the businesses that he's been involved in. And ultimately, in this final segment, we're talking about just current career, ways that our local Tennessee communities can connect with him and support him, and ultimately the impact that he seeks to leave through this work. We're coming right back in, present day, doing the road. I want to talk about flop sweat. I want to talk about the impact that you seek to leave through all this, and you are free to start with any of those things.
Yeah, so flop sweat was something that my friend Mike Postalakis had set up in California. He moved down here. He's also a comedian. He's a writer as well. And we decided to partner up on kind of redoing that here. Flop sweat is like local showcases. Sometimes we'll do local shows. A lot of sketch comedy and reoccurring series. I know Mike just released a series called The Babysitters, which is really cool. So that flop sweat is really fun because that gives me the outlet to, write sketches, put them together, producing really funny sketches is really fun to do, especially when with your friends, and that's what Flop Sweat is for me. So Mike Postolakis and Colton Haas are who I buddy up with on that one.
And how did you get involved with them?
Me and Mike were at an open mic, and he came up to me, and we just kind of hit it off as homies, and through having dinners and just, connecting, it's like, oh, we're kind of on the same wavelength. And, when you're on the same wavelength with somebody, it's really fun to partner up and work with them because it doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like you're making fun things with your friends.
You're right. And speaking of fun things, I want to talk about some of the material that makes you fun. First of all, I want to ask, you're constantly wearing an animal shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I want to ask, tell me about that. I think that's very cool.
So that's just something for me. That's just something I like. When I first started going out and doing like shows and mics, I thought it would be really funny to wear really weird shirts, like really weird animal shirts.
Yeah.
And over time, I had got so many, and finally people started saying like, hey, how many of these do you have? And I was like, well, that would be funny to just have a bunch. So now I have like over 130 different animals that I just pull out a random animal, and I don't know.
Where do you find these shirts?
Yeah, I find them a lot online. Yeah, they're all the same brand. It's the Mountain. Please sponsor me.
Oh, they need to at this point.
They don't answer emails. They have a hard time doing that. But no, they're very fun, and it's just something silly for me, and it kind of is like I don't know. It's just like a little security thing for me. I go up there and I have my animal shirt, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have fun.
And it's like very recognizable too, like like the guy with the animal shirt.
Oh yeah, it's super brandable. That's another thing, to break the fourth wall.
Eat that right on.
Yeah,
right?
Come on.
And then also I want to talk about just some of that material, some of that fun material you've been involved in. Tell me about Freaky Friday and dressing up and switching kind of bodies with people.
Oh yeah, that was something. So a local comic, Will Gunderson, runs a thing called Cut Up Comedy Nashville, which they do local showcases and open mics. It's really awesome. You should check it out. He thought it'd be funny to do a body switch show, and they paired me up with a local guy named James Holiday, who is he's the best guy ever. Older gentleman, and he's very, very colorful in the way he dresses and the way he talks. So it was very fun for me to go up like him and him to go up. I mean, he had one of my shirts on. It was really fun to, you kind of just embody a fellow comedian that you respect, and it's all very playful. And the crowd can tell that the comedians are having fun, which means that they have a lot of fun.
And I'm hearing like a lot of fun, a lot of happiness, a lot of comfort. So really tell me, is that kind of the mission that you seek to leave with your viewers? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just want to be silly, man. It's like we've been, as just a country, we've been through a lot the last 5 years, and it's really important that we kind of see past all those things and still hold hands and kumbaya at the end of the day. No matter where you're from, what you're into, like at the end of the day, we're all humans, and it's important to me that through comedy we could kind of blur those lines a little bit and all come together and laugh on like certain things. One of the guys that I've done the road with, AJ Wilkerson, very funny guy. We talked about that the last time we were doing the show. It's like it's nice when you can see a room of different people all kind of erase those barriers, right? Because you're sitting next to someone you don't really know, and you're like, well, this is kind of awkward. But then that line slowly goes away, and you're all laughing about something. And at the end of the show, it's like, we all just had a really good time, and now we all have that oneness in the fact that we just had a good time. There is no weird separating. We all are in this place at this time having fun, and that's really cool to be able to create for people.
And I appreciate that. I do think that your comedy and your work really speaks to that, being able to just kind of bring in these like diverse communities and make people feel good. Tell me now, you're doing the road thing. Tell me kind of what that looks like, some of the upcoming dates that you have scheduled, some of the future plans that you have, and ways that these Nashville communities can support you.
Well, we have a really cool show December 22nd at the Lab. My friend Connor Larson puts on, called the Big Rift Show. That is really, really fun. Everyone should go check that out. That's the idea of the show is comedians go up there with no material and they pull things from a bucket. The last one was so much fun. This one's going to be way better. With Connor Larson and Lee Kimbrell, we also just started a podcast called The Boy Storm. So go check out.
And tell me about that. What's the kind of material? What's that look like? What's the purpose behind that?
It's just a way to, honestly, it's a way to generate content to put online, because that's really important nowadays. But it's also a good way for us as comedians to, people only get to see us for 10, 15, 30 minutes at a time. This kind of opens up that door and lets them kind of into who we are as a people, what makes kind of the comedy that we create. So the Boy Storm's really fun, but December 22nd is the Big Riff Show with Connor Larson at the Lab at Zany's, which is their new room. So it's really fun.
And Kyler, in these last few minutes of the episode, tell me, one, the impact that you want to have. Tell me how you want to be remembered, like your future plans, the dreams that you see in your head, and then ways that our community can connect with you, ways that like they can purchase tickets, social media, just all the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, biggest plan is having the most successful, best demolition company in Middle Tennessee. And also, the legacy I want to leave. I just want people to just have, I don't really want them to remember me. I want them to remember the feeling, and just walk out with that feeling, because people have predispositions all the time. And people often look at me and go, oh, they're very judgmental of what they think I am. I want people to just stop doing that. Yeah. So like with my comedy, I want to generate enough silliness in people that they let go of all of these biases and you don't know anybody, you don't know what anyone's been through. So just love everyone and have fun, and also joke. Joke about stuff. Nothing's too serious. Right. Nothing that happens in your life is too serious where it should bother you for longer than an hour. Right. No matter what it is.
And thank you.
Pick up and move, man. Just keep going. Life keeps moving forward, so you can't stay back.
And you're right, man. How can these viewers connect with you? How can they stay in touch with all the things that you're doing?
Kyler Finney Comedy on Instagram, Vol Demo LLC on Instagram. Those are the two quickest outlets to me and what I've got going on. We post a lot of really funny videos on my Demolition Businesses page also. Because I run that page and I have to have fun. So those are the two best ways to reach out or stay connected with what I've got going on. You can also check out Boy Storm on Instagram and Flop Sweat. Instagram's the best way to see what I've got going on.
And thank you, Kyler, for sharing your time with me, for sharing your story with me, and ultimately for the work that you do. I don't think there are too many people whose impact is to leave others feeling good and feeling warm inside. And that makes you pretty special, and it makes you pretty cool in my eyes. So bless you. Thank you. And I encourage our viewers to continue to stay in touch with Kyler, to continue to stay in touch with all that he does in the local community. And I thank you for just one more opportunity to share one more perspective. Good morning.